So this is to introduce David from Zentek Consultants. David, you had too many accomplishments to put on one slide, so I hope you don't mind that I summarized a little bit. But
well, thank you.
David is 10 years in the construction industry, doing mostly commercial and healthcare. He's been an estimator, a project engineer, a field engineer, and an assistant PM. And then later he's on a really big healthcare project as an owner's representative. He joined Zentek back in 2023. And in his role there, he's developed a lot of custom solutions, but does a lot of training as well for both Bluebeam and Procore. Written a bunch of articles as well about him. So I'm going to let David take control here and just tell us a little bit about what he's going to talk about and just go right into the presentation.
Yeah. Take over the screen now.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys can see everything.
And that looks good.
So
yeah, it looks good.
Thank you very much. I love when I can hear actually people confirm with me when I teach the classes. Everyone's just dead silent. I'm like, well, hopefully you can hear me for the next 2 hours, or this is going to be a pretty awkward conversation. We're going to be covering 3.
Your mic was muted.
I was wondering if you just muted, Dave.
Oh, sorry about that. I did. Hold on. Let's see.
I'm unmuted again.
There you go.
Unmute myself. There we go. So we're going to be covering 3 kind of major topics today. We're going to be talking about automatically creating page labels and kind of what page labels are. We're going to talk about some intelligent custom column data, having custom columns within our tool chests. And kind of the last topic of the day is going to be comparing and identifying differences between documents. More or less, my example is going to be drawings, but they can be applied to really realistically any type of document. So first things first, let's talk about page labels. Page labels are basically a part of Bluebeam and really any PDF per se that names individual pages. And you can look at page labels if you click on the thumbnails on the left-hand side over here. I'm on the Revu Advanced profile if anyone does want to follow exactly along with me. It's one of the profiles we do a lot of our training with, and it's one of my favorite ones. So I'm on the Revu Advanced profile. But again, on the thumbnails panel, and you can see your page labels directly underneath every single, kind of thumbnail view. So in my example here, I have 14 pages, all with the name sheet. Now, page labels at the end of the day are useful for navigating your drawings. And there's a couple things a little bit later on that I'll discuss on why page labels are important. So from our view here, if you didn't know, you can zoom in and out down here in the bottom left and bottom right. But even if you zoom all the way in, and I'm on like a nice 4K, pretty large monitor on my thumbnails. I would never have my thumbnails this big. This is pretty not practical. But even then, I can barely see this sheet number right here. So having a page label is going to let us see our sheet name and our sheet number. And one thing to note is the automatically creating page labels is only a feature within Core and Complete. It's not available in the basic package. However, if you are in the basics package, you can manually rename each of these pages. So I thought I'd let everyone know that before we get started. So page labels. The best way to really start our page labels is if you go up to Document, we do have Create Page Labels right here. And we're going to have 2 different ways to create page labels. The first is going to be utilizing bookmarks. And bookmarks are, again, another feature of Bluebeam. I've already set them up ahead of time on this document. And it's just going to basically copy whatever name you gave the bookmark. You could also set the pages, which pages you want to be, addressed to change. And we'll be getting onto the page region example just momentarily here. So you can see they all changed from sheet to what I have for my bookmarks. I don't want to go over to the bookmarks tab, but it's exactly the same. That's one of the ways. However, the more useful way I find is actually utilizing the page region feature. So I'm going to just move over to a different sheet here, this C4 drawing. And I'm just going to be zooming into the bottom right. I have my sheet number right here, and I have my sheet name. Now, my page label on this file is just 1. I don't have any scale set or anything else. I'm going to make my thumbnail just a little bit smaller here. I'm going to go back up to Document and create page labels here. I can actually do the Select feature now. And again, I could change my page ranges. And why you'd want to change your page ranges here is a lot of the times, at least when I was, in the general contract industry, we had a wide variety of drawings we would receive. Architectural, civil, electrical, right? So we work with all different types. And our page region is going to be the same on every single drawing. So you could kind of see this little binding box I have here, this little blue square I'm drawing. So this is how Bluebeam is going to read, right-click right there on accident, read our drawing to create a page label. So let me try that again real quick. So I could just do a simple binding box there. And you can even see it's going to give us a little preview down here. And I could even start doing multiple regions. So I could put in a dash right here and add in another region. I'll do the layout plan here. I'm just going to say, hey, C004 layout plan. Right? And you could even put in a project number. Again, if I wanted to type in, 24-1, maybe that's the project number. Who knows? It'll even show it in there. So after I got my regions, you can have as many regions as you want. One little note about this, though, is the more regions you are reading, and the more pages you have, the longer this is going to take to process. So I'm going to click OK, and you'll see hopefully a loading bar. Okay, it was actually instant because I'm only on one page here. Let me actually go over to this document here. But it's going to be highly dependent on, how fast your computer is. If you have a dinosaur from 1990, it's probably not going to. You're probably going to spend a few hours doing these 14 pages. So here you go. You can see the bar going across. Again, this is 14 pages. So it took pretty quickly, and we do have pretty powerful computers here. Depends on your processing. If you have 50 million programs open, like if you have AutoCAD or Revit or any other design software open, how many files there are or how many pages you're doing. I've done like a 1,200 page document before, and it took me about 2 hours to do. And that was on a even more powerful computer than my laptop. It had a very high-end graphics card and a high-end CPU in it. So it still took a while, and for that, I kind of would recommend either take off the day early if you're doing that, or do it at the end of the day. 5 p.m. start that process. Because one little downside about this is you cannot actually use Bluebeam, and your computer also slows down while it's progressing through the page labeling process. So yeah, somebody mentioned this is the best. I do this daily. Same. When I was doing all my projects, I would always do my page labels. And it's not perfect. you'll see some errors here. This has a little bubble around it, so you'll just have to manually edit this one and delete the slash. You could just double click on it and edit it. And page labeling gets into a lot of other tools that will make using those other tools later, which we'll see. So that's a little bit about automatic page labeling. And up next, we're going to move into custom columns here.
But just
custom
a note,
columns. Yep.
Just a note, David, if I can, on the on that feature, is that all those PDFs have to be printed exactly the same way, and if that PDF is just shifted a bit, then it's outside of your box. Well, it's going to mess it up. Well, that sheet is going to not properly be page labeled.
Yep. So yeah, that brings up a good point. Yeah, if all your drawings are 30 by 42, for example, I don't know what the Canadian equivalent is, so sorry about that. But if all your pages are Arch-E1 and your civil drawings are Arch-D 24 by 36, then yeah, your civil drawings are one of those is going to be messed up depending on which you start your page label off of. Which is why I would recommend. Before you do this, get a sticky note. I don't use sticky notes. We're a pretty digital company, so I write everything down on a notepad on my monitor there. Type it in, and I say, hey, civil drawings are 1 through 20. Architectural drawings are 21 through 44. And they have a different layout than the civil drawings. So yeah, that's a good point to bring up. If you do that, you could always redo the page labeling process, the automatic though, which is usually what I end up doing. Because I do that mistake all the time. But I want to get into custom columns up next. And custom columns, I would say, at least from our consulting standpoint, are one of the least used features from we've seen, and not many people even know about them. So Bluebeam has the markups list down at the bottom. And our markups list can contain a lot of information. We could even toggle on, different columns, whatever we see fit. Okay, just from what I have on this setup, I have just the subject, I have the page label, who's it by, the date, and a few other just information here that's not even filled out. But with custom columns, you can actually automatically have in certain drop downs, costs, checkboxes, and just, again, it's whatever the mind can think of at this point. There are some caveats, again, I'll get into when I talk about them. But if you really want to create a custom column, we could go to columns, and then down here at the bottom might be a little bit hard to see, but we do have manage columns. Then we have this section for custom columns. We have two little views here. So again, we could see all the built-in Bluebeam columns. Again, all very useful depending on kind of what you're doing. Then we also have custom columns. Now, most of the time, again, if you're new to Bluebeam or you haven't used any type of Bluebeam tools before, this is just going to be blank. And the easiest way to start creating a custom column is if we just click on add here. We're going to have several categories. So this drop down, we have checkmark, choice, date, formula, and number. We're going to go over all of those real quick. So starting with text, whatever you want to give your name of your custom column, that's going to be right up here, where you see like author, date, status. So for example, I like to give, manufacturer. And we could either leave this as a multi-line text item, and you can even put in a default, type of text in there for it to say. So no manufacturer, just leave it just like that. And I'll get into, once I get all of these done, I'll kind of show you what they all look like. Coming back to this page every single time is a little bit tedious. And then we're going to do add again. Talk about number. Number allows you to only enter in a type of number. So we have normal, currency, and percentage. Again, we want to put in, let's say, a cost. So we might actually want to change this, instead of having a normal here, we want to change this to currency. And depending on how many decimal places you want, I'll keep it out to 2 decimal places, and the currency, I'll keep it as dollar. You could provide different values, a min, max, or a default. Right beneath it, I don't really use this too much. I never have found a good application for myself. We do have a few clients that do have custom tools that do utilize the min, max feature and default feature. Default, I'll just leave it as $0 though. And same thing, min, max, I'll just put these in here as well. So my minimum is going to be $0, and my maximum we'll just put to be 100 or 1,000. I'll do 1,000 just to make it a little easier. And again, we could just click on OK. And formula. Now, I'm going to actually skip formula for now because one of my other examples uses the formula feature. So we're going to just skip that for now. Date. Again, depending on your standard date format, we can change that if you only want to see month day, or month day and the entire year. You could even see it down here, kind of what it looks like. So I'll keep it as that one, the month, day, and then the 4-digit year. We could even provide a default. So we could do a current date. We could do a custom day in here for everything. I'm just going to leave it as a none because my thing here is an install date. I'm going to want people to automatically put this date in here for installation. Oh, cannot have special characters in the name. I did forget about that. So just install date. And then choice. This is arguably the most powerful, one of my favorite as well. And the choice allows us to have drop downs. So, for example, I'm going to be doing an electrical, kind of topic here. So we have the item and the subject. So an item is going to be what that drop down name is going to be called. So, maybe I want to do duplex here, a duplex outlet. And the subject is going to be whatever our subject is for that item. And if you leave this blank, it's going to appear on every single type of item. However, if I put a subject in here for a receptacle, when I start putting in my lighting fixtures, I'm not going to see a drop down for a duplex, for example. And I could even assign it a numeric value. So a duplex, this may cost $20. And I could add in a few more, such as, a quad. Again, I'll do receptacle here. This will cost $40. And I'll do a duplex with USB. And that'll be $35. I don't know how much they cost. I didn't look them up. I'm just putting some random numbers on the screen. Subject should be receptacle. This should be $35. And this is going to be just option. Again, names. This is all customizable to your own needs. You can also import and format them, which we don't really have too much time to fully get into that. But we can continue to add and modify to our heart's desire. And last well, we actually have two more. We have a check mark. And this is the most, easiest one to understand. It just puts a little check mark for, you to click on. I like to really do that for like an ordered, kind of thing. And I'm actually going to change my cost to installation cost here. Okay. Now the last one is going to be formula. And formula also is a very powerful one. And formulas can do some basic math. And it's not as advanced as Excel or, Google Sheets, anyone that does use those online kind of spreadsheets for your formulas. However, it can give you some basic, arithmetic values. And using the variables that we have, area. So if you want to do a area for, square footage, we have volume. These are already kind of built in. But we also have our own custom, columns that we put in here as well. There's also constants and functions, for more mathematical reasons. But for my example here, I'm actually going to be doing a count times my installation cost plus, hopefully I get this formula right the first time. I never do, but you just never know today. Times my plus my option. So hopefully my formula is correct because I want it to multiply the cost of my receptacles with the accessories or option or type. So I can do OK. And we have my 6 custom columns here. And one thing that you can do is save them to your profile. So again, I'm on the Revu Advanced profile. And what this is going to allow us to do is whenever I open up files, any new drawings in the future, and I have my Revu Advanced profile up, it's going to keep these columns. So when I open up a new drawing tomorrow, I'm going to see these 6 columns. If you're going to go down this route, always export these. Mind you, it's going to save them as an XML. Put them in a save location. The default, I think, is the regular app data folder for Bluebeam. But save them because I have wasted a lot of time redoing my custom columns because they didn't, I never saved it to a profile and I switched profiles. These aren't saved anywhere. So once you're done with these, always export. That's another way to kind of save if you don't want to save it to a profile. Then you can also delete from your profile as well. So which I'm actually going to be doing as well, just so it doesn't save to this profile. And you're going to see that they show up right on my markups list down here at the bottom. I'm just going to turn off everything else. That way we can see that. Just going to expand these real quick. So right now, I don't, I put some receptacles right here on these desks, and I have the default text I put in there, a $0 installation cost, and there's nothing really in there. And I could start, manually typing in some stuff. I'll type in, maybe it's $10 each for an installation cost. We'll do the install date for today. And duplex. And here you can see we have our receptacle. I have 6 of them. It's actually not going to say that. Let me put on my count because I did turn that off. I have 6 receptacles. And each of them with the installation and the duplex is, practically $30 each. And 30 times 6 is 180. I could even change these options, and all these are going to change. However, you could actually tie these to your tool chests. So I have this receptacle right here. I'll try to make the symbol a little larger for us. Actually, we'll change this to a detail view. And if I click on my receptacle over here, or even if you change your profile or add your tool ahead of time, this can be Legrand or my standard manufacturer. Maybe the installation cost is actually $12. Keep my install day as blank, and I don't, maybe 99% of them are going to be a duplex, so we'll just leave the default as duplex. And now I'm going to start placing another 6 more down. I'm just going to place them, we'll place another 4 more actually right here. And you're going to see that that data is automatically going to fill in down here for us. So I have 4 Legrand. Again, the math is accurate. And even if I continue to do more, like I closed out of that tool, I'll do, scroll down to, these desks here. I'll do another like 8 more here. See that information? It's still over on my property side. And here again, we have our count. Everything is calculating appropriately. And if I want to change one of these, I simply can. Maybe these are all going to be the duplex with the USB right here, just because, we have 4 desks and, 4 over here. And again, the math is going to change. And you can even share your custom columns with people. Again, that's how you can do the export feature right here. Export, and then they would just simply import it to their, Bluebeam profile. And then again, always click save to profile if you are going to do this, and export. I've wasted, again, last year alone, probably close to 20 hours not saving or exporting my custom columns. And with that, the mind is kind of the limit on what you can do, because the text, again, you can have standard text in here. I heard somebody, works for a steel company. So if you want to, if you're doing any takeoff tools or standard notes, you can put in, default text. You could put in, your beam size, your column sizes, a W. I'm not a steel contractor, so I don't know all the beam sizes or anything. But we do have a steel set for all that information. So that's about custom columns. I don't know if anyone has any questions on that right now. If they want to type in the chat, and you could do that with any type of markup tool. So area, I just did a simple count. Counts are really the most most common. But if I wanted to do an area, if I wanted to do a volume, all of those are applicable for custom columns. And then from there, you can export it to a CSV, PDF, or XML, depending on what your company's standard format is. And, depending on, how you import your information into like a Salesforce or any other, bidding management or quote management, we have helped a client so that when they export out of Bluebeam, this is for our Excel class here, they can directly import their custom columns, the CSV that's created, into their proposal system, and everything is created practically automatically. Again, there's a lot of steps between A to Z for that, a lot of customization. And again, everyone is a little bit different on how they have their system set up, so I can't necessarily fully go into that. But as you can see, everything is exported for us. So if anyone's doing any type of takeoffs, there you go.
Have you tried?
Hey David, I'm going to jump in. Scott O'Brien actually asked a question about whether all these things will transfer to a new sheet if you actually did a slip sheet on top of it.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. And yes, so if you use the slip sheet function, all of your markups are going to transfer along with all your data, your column data. And then Jonathan, I think you were about to say something as well.
I wanted to know if you've tried the linking function with the Excel sheet, so that if you modify in Bluebeam, that'll modify Excel.
Yep. So yeah, quantity linking is another thing. That's another. Maybe we could do another webinar for that one in the future. That's another very powerful feature. So again, I showed you guys. I do use it. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
For those of you who don't know what quantity linking is, I got a minute to explain it. You can actually, whenever you do a markup, you can tie it to your Excel spreadsheet, and those numbers will automatically update. The areas, the counts, and that's how you can get over some of the limitations that the Bluebeam custom columns offer. Again, Excel, you could do an infinite number of things in Excel. It's just such a wide program to do in terms of calculations and formulas. So that's a little bit about that. It's pretty easy to set up too. So I don't like, that's one thing I was not really prepared for. I know it's not with every available license. So I would not be able to answer that. I do know if it's, I know I'm on the complete version, so I know quantity linking works for the complete.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So up next, we are going to be talking about, comparing differences, comparing drawings per se for my example, but again, they could be any type of document. And I almost just closed that out. I would have been really upset. So I'm going back to my C4 drawing here. And there's a couple different ways to compare drawings. The first way, and arguably the most simplistic way, is really just splitting views and, syncing them together. So once you have them split, you kind of see my two different tabs here. And underneath documents, view, we have synchronized page and synchronized documents. And this is just going to allow us to visually scan and see the differences. Now, when you're going through 100, 200 pages, this is not the most applicable way. However, it is a good way for you to actually look at those differences at an individual drawing level. Thank you for that status bar, by the way, whoever told me that. I don't know how that even got turned off, but I do appreciate you letting me know about that. So that's one way. But however, like I said, when you're doing an entire set of drawings, it's not the most applicable. So that's where we get into another feature of Bluebeam. And it has both a document side and also a batch side. So we'll go over the document side first. So this is more or less comparing it at a one-to-one level. So we have compare documents and overlay pages, which we're going to get into both. So first, compare documents. It's going to give us this little tab up here, this little window. And it's going to have us say, hey, which two documents do you want to compare? Fortunately, I can't read any of these. I do already have them set up. So my document 1 is going to be my initial drawing here, my C4 drawing. C004, I should say. It's just labeled C4 on my name. This other one is going to be my C4 revision number 1. And there's a couple other options we could change here. One of which is manual alignment. And this goes back to kind of Jonathan's kind of point is, hey, what if you have two different size drawings? What if you're on two different types of drawings or whatever. So you can actually select manual alignment, which we'll do another example for momentarily for that. But this works best when everything is laid out exactly the same, on the drawing. So ask your architects, ask your engineers, your designers, make sure your kind of viewports are in the exact same location. And we also have some advanced settings we could kind of mess around with. And I'm going to be honest, I don't really change too many of these on a day-to-day basis. It just gets too complex after a while, and really 99.9% of the time, assuming the drawing's laid out properly, you don't need to worry about some of this more advanced stuff. But one thing that is useful is including markups and including flatten markups. And what this is actually going to do is add a bubble to a cloud bubble to all of the areas that have a change. So, and you could give it a subject and a label. So I'm going to leave the defaults as the same here. So you can see it's going to be actually I'll change the inside color to just a pink so you can see what that looks like. So I'm just going to click on OK. And this is actually going to create, you do have to have both your files saved, by the way. This is going to create a new file for us that looks at the changes. So I made all my bubbles, pink and have this red border on the outside so you can easily see them all. And you can see the difference is between, revision 4 and revision, the original revision. So we got some changes over here, got some changes right here. And it's even gonna, bubble in the things over here. Now, I can again go back to my split vertical and actually look into detail, all of these. Oh, the 34, it changed a little bit. It moved over to the right. We got some hatching over here and deleting these numbers, those lots. And again, we know about the revisions over here, and looks like there's something going on right here. Now it's going to be looking at every single pixel difference. So sometimes you will get these little bubbles that it doesn't look. I'm super far zoomed in right now. We'll zoom out a little bit. It will look for every single pixel difference. So sometimes you will just have a couple pixels on your screen. Some issues with this, just so you guys are aware of, scan documents. It can work, but you're going to get a lot of bubbles. So there's another way for that. It really works best for PDFs that were, created with this nice, clean, vectorized, vector style lines. When you zoom in, it doesn't pixelize. So I'm going to just close out of this over here just to make my view back to normal. And then kind of going along with that, we also have compare documents the batch way. And this is going to give us another little interface. And this is comparing multiple pages. Remember when I brought up that electrical set in those page labels and how important it is? Well, we can actually automatically sort by and match, the different revisions of those drawings by the page label. Now, unfortunately, I do not have a good electrical set that has changes associated with it. So we'll have to use a little bit of our imagination here. And there's even some more advanced, kind of stuff that you can look for. So matched pages. I'm just going to bring up this dialog. And here you can see all of my page labels associated with this. And assuming I had the same page labels here, again, I'm not going to fully go into this example. Assuming these are both E01, I could simply click on match pages. You can see how these pages are kind of matched over here. So yeah, that's why you'd want to do the page label. You can certainly do the page index too. I just know from my time in the industry, drawings get added, drawings get deleted. So the page index, unless you're really working on a smaller scale project and there aren't going to be sheets added or deleted, your labeling is going to be the best bet. Also, to kind of go along with that is if the sheets get out of order, that's why you don't want to do the page index. Again, the page label is going to be your go-to method here. And that's going to give us the same results. If I had 14 drawings here, it's going to give us 14 different drawings, all with the underscore diff here and whatever my options want to be for my settings. So it's not going to create one PDF. It's going to create 14 separate files, and from there you can then combine them all, or go through one of them at a time if you'd like. I'd recommend combining them though. The other option for comparing documents is the overlay feature. The overlay feature does something similar, but it doesn't create the bubbles. One thing I did forget to mention, though, is let me open that file back up before I get too far. I didn't save it, but each of those clouds is actually on the markups list. Well, unfortunately, I did not save that before I closed out of it. Okay, so the other option we have is overlay pages. And overlay pages is going to allow us to overlay 2 or more drawings on top of each other. So I'm going to be doing, I'm just do add all open files, and I delete the other ones. So for example, what I've done in the past when I was in the field, I would typically overlay the architectural drawings, and I would overlay some of the MEP, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing drawings. Sometimes I'd have all 4 of them on the same PDF with different colors. It gets a little bit confusing. 2 of them is what most people I would recommend you do. And then we could double click on this to change our color. Again, I like to use the base layer as just black. Red, green, and blue are my 3 favorites, depending on what they are. And again, we have different settings that we can change. Again, every drawing is going to be different. Every project's going to be different. And here's where we can also align points. So if you have 2 different size drawings, this is where you're going to want to align the points at. And aligning points, they'll say, please choose 3 different points. Some recommendations for this is use column lines. You can use the corner of the drawing. Column lines are usually my go-to, though. So I'm just going to go to my 3 corners of the drawing, even though I know for a fact that these 2 sheets are the same size. And it's going to have me pick my other drawing now, so I got to pick it in the same spot. And again, these drawings are the same size, but this one is actually not going to be here if you had 2 different size drawings. And you want to try to pick the same kind of location. That's why I said column lines, they're going to be your best bet. And then after this, we can click on OK. And I think I have there we go. So here again, here's another way to look at the changes. So these are overlaid on top of each other. You can see, hey, you know, the red is what is from my revision number 1. See over here. And if you zoom in super far, you can see that there's actually a little bit of an outline, but you don't need to worry about that. That's just from the manual configuration. So again, some great examples, again, I used in the field. I would always lay down the architectural drawings as my base layer, and I would actually start putting in other trades, you know, that typically do have conflicts with each other. One of the biggest ones was always our millwork and our electrical. So I would overlay our interior design drawings and overlay our electrical drawings for where to put, you know, different duplexes, where to add certain power cords at and everything else. Because that can allow, you know, it just gets rid of a lot of questions when you can overlay them on top of each other. And again, you could do as many as you want to, you know, I could do 3 drawings, 4. And again, there's also a batch version of this as well. And it's going to be the exact same. Get rid of all these. Just as we covered in, you know, just 10 minutes ago, not even, for the batch version of the drawing compare, it's going to be the same layout. So again, that's why page labels, this is gonna help you out a lot more. But those are kind of the 3 big topics, you know, that I've covered today. I don't know if anyone has any questions. If you want to unmute yourself or need elaboration, or put it in the chat. Again, I can't really go over too much of the advanced tools, because we'll be all day going over each and every single advanced setting. And I don't think anyone wants to be here till 9 p.m. talking about comparing drawings and talking about pixels all day.